So if you guys have just popped over from seeing the MARSOC mod Qual that we have just finished shooting on the main TREX Arms channel, you will have seen a large course of fire shot in the day and then a course of fire that's also shot in the evening for both rifle and handgun. And this is the qualification that MARSOC uses prior to shoot house training or prior to pre-deployments. Guys have to run through this, pass with a certain level of accuracy, and there are also time standards on every single string of fire with both rifle and handgun. There's a lot of things about this qual that I really like. There's a few things that I think could be changed, but that is a subject for another video. What we want to talk about is the equipment that we used. We kind of selected equipment that is very similar to what MARSOC guys are issued and are using today. We wanted to actually shoot the qual with the same gear. You know, I could use all kinds of different plate carriers or slicked out loadouts. I could use like pano nods. I could use some 300 blackout rifle, but instead what we did was, hey, let's actually use what guys are issued right now, which is, you know, OpsCore helmets and binos of some sort, a slicked out sort of plate carrier, but with, you know, has the capability of carrying a lot of equipment. We had some packs as well. I ran a belt, Brandon didn't, and then I shot a 11.5 URGI, which some of the guys are being issued, and Brandon was shooting a 14.5. But we're going to get into the specifics of the equipment and actually talk through a few things. So the first off, starting with plate carrier choice, this is our new AC 1.5. So if you guys are familiar, we've been selling the AC1 for a very long time. It's a pretty standard slick plate carrier. And like we do with all of our products, we like to look for improvements. We like to look at criticisms that people have online. But more specifically, we like to criticize the equipment internally ourselves as we continue using the product. And over the last few years, we've been adding little tweaks here and there of what we'd like to see change with the AC1. And what we decided to do is to actually branch off the product into two different lines or two different models, because super slick carriers are kind of their own thing, and then plate carriers that can, you know, be outfitted for a little bit more equipment are different. And then you also have like crazy load-bearing plate carriers that I would also consider are completely separate, but you know, we'll get into that probably in the future. But this is the AC 1.5. The main differences with this plate carrier is we are including a different cummerbund by default. So it's going to be a 5-inch elastic cummerbund with pull tab retainers. There is one difference with this cummerbund that I'm using right here. The new cummerbund is actually going to have these two rear cells flipped upside down. And the reason for that is the equipment is much easier to get at than having them right side up. And so I have this one where everything's right side up. I can still get to this cell right here. It's just a lot easier if it's upside down for like a med kit or a rifle magazine of some sort. So that's a little bit different. The other thing that's different is the plate bags. We changed the material. So now we have a tweed material on the inside, which many of you guys are familiar with other products on the market, instead of the mesh material. The mesh material holds up very well, but there have been some concerns with like pilling and like falling apart over time. So just going to a more premium material that is also a proven material was something that we wanted to do. And it also allows a little bit more stretch when it comes to fitting different plates into the plate bags. Another thing we have is normalized MOLLE webbing here at the top of the plate carrier. It's going to be hard to see with my placard, but I'll detach it. So we have a row of webbing across the front. Basically, what this is going to allow people to do is using various placards that we'll be coming out with. You won't need to use swift clip buckles. You won't need to use G-hook buckles. You can actually direct thread the placard to the webbing here, which is traditional MOLLE spacing, unlike Cry, which they have their own proprietary thing. So your front panel can be attached more slickly and slimly than relying on hardware up top. That was just one thing we wanted to add. Yes, Cry placards are compatible. They kind of bunch up in the middle a little bit, but you can take existing AVS pattern placards, thread those on, and then not have to worry about buckles or G-hooks. We also optimized where G-hooks can go on here, so it's a tighter fit by slotting this a little bit differently. And we also have, this is actually a pretty big upgrade. I wish most plate carriers, if not all plate carriers, had this functionality, although we've only done this for the AC1.5 because the AC0, we just did some different things with that. But the wings for the plate carrier, which most people use nowadays, typically attach to the front of the plate carrier, and as you're moving your placard and you're doing stuff, they can come unpeeled, and then you're dealing with like, you've pulled your cummerbund off and your tourniquet has gone with your cummerbund, or your radio has gone with your cummerbund. And it's just annoying, and it's not great if you're constantly training, putting your kit on, taking it off. So what we did instead is we actually made the wing attachment area completely separate, if you want, or not, you don't have to do it, completely separate from the main panel. So now you can attach your various wings, shut the entire panel, and now they are protected and they're never going to come off as you're donning and doffing the plate carrier. That's just something that is, it's a pretty big upgrade. I really like it. It makes a very big difference with time as you just do stuff. And that's a pretty big difference with the AC15, and a pretty big difference compared to other plate carriers on the market right now. But like I said, I hope more plate carriers adopt this. It's not that complicated to build a plate carrier for. You're just adding some extra layers of material. It's really not a big issue. As far as loadout goes, you'll see that my loadout is actually pretty slick, and that's because I don't need to carry a lot of stuff for what I'm doing. I mean, I'm pretty much on the range. That's all I'm doing. But one thing I really like is our triple mag placard. And the reason I like this is, and the reason we developed it originally is it's versatile. I can carry 6 magazines in the front if I want, or I can just carry 3, or I can carry 2, and then I can carry 2 pistol mags. I can do basically whatever I want with this placard. I have a lot of functionality, and I'm not restricted to like certain magazines or only 1 magazine per. I can kind of do whatever I want. So that's what I was running, although my speed reload, which only happens once during the actual course of fire, was from a belt. The time standards on the Qual, though, allow you to load from a plate carrier pretty easily. They're not that crazy when it comes to the reload, which is 2 standing, drop to the kneeling, 2 from the kneeling position. You can load from the carrier just fine, and that's what Brandon was doing. On the side of the cummerbund, I've got batteries. I've got my dope card holder, which I had information on for the Qual. Notebook, Sharpie here with the radio. I have an APX 8000, which I have 2 different PTTs to run different comm setups. Comms and PTTs are annoying. Like, I have multiple for this radio because I have multiple different kinds of headsets. So this is a standard Nexus that I got off of Disco that runs into the APX, and that can connect to my Comtacs, and then I'm good to go, or into my Sordins, and they can also be good to go. Headlamp attached to the front of the plate carrier. I just like that a little bit more than it dangling around my neck. It can be tight to the plate carrier. I can still angle it down and see what I need to do. And it doesn't get in the way of stock placement. That is very important to me. I need to be able to, do stuff. Wallaby pouch in the front. So this is this product, especially for if you don't want to run a dump pouch on your belt, which I don't really do anymore, this pouch gets it done. You can do all the things with this pouch. Throughout the day, I was throwing empty mags in. I had my thick glove. So I typically do a thick glove on my shooting hand for heat mitigation. And then I have thin shooting gloves over here for like pistol, because you don't want thick gloves for shooting handgun. So single Michael Jackson glove for shooting rifle if it gets hot, or like an AK. But this pouch, I can just throw trash in. I can throw spare ammunition because I was spitting ammo out for different parts of the Qual. So I've got a bunch of 5.56, like a lot of ammo, actually, a lot of money. And when I don't need this pouch, because, maybe it's getting in the way, I can roll this up, and then it's like out of the way, and it's not doing anything crazy. I do have a knife in here. I'm just kind of playing with it. A sock P on the side, so rips from the bottom, and they actually, never came out as I was running around, and it's there ready to go if I ever need a knife for something, so that's cool. On this side, I've got a tourniquet and a chem light, Viz chem light, just for if I want to pop one for whatever reason. On this side of the cummerbund, I have a multi-tool, a Leatherman something, my half mask, which I frankly don't need yet, but when it gets cold, I'll definitely wear it. My pair of pistol shooting gloves, thin gloves, and that's what my plate carrier loadout consists of. I've got level 4 plates inside. They're very slim. I have seen comments from people. They're like, oh, he's not wearing plates because it's really slim. Yeah, that's the point. It's really slim. I still have backers, though, because it's kind of uncomfortable because they're not padded plates. They are just super slick level 4s and also very expensive. So that's the plate carrier loadout. We did run packs a little bit. Shooting with a pack sucks for a lot of reasons. I actually forgot how much it sucks, with the main thing being tension and pressure on the shoulders as you're collapsing on a handgun, which doesn't allow you to actually get into a full extension form. So that kind of sucks, but also shooting rifle and how wobbly it is. But the reason to run a pack like this separate from the carrier is it's just easy to get into. So I've got water on here, I had a rain jacket, and then there's room for whatever else. So I just ran this a little bit, took it off. But this is a Eagle Yote. This is actually one of the older models, and it interfaces well with the plate carrier. It's flat on the back, so it just, you know, sits there. There's nothing crazy happening. And I can get to it, take it off, and wear it pretty easily. Med H for medical. So rather than putting a bunch of medical on the plate carrier, I'm running this as a fanny pack, and I'm wearing this on top of my pistol belt. So pistol belt goes on, then this goes on, and I just shove it back here, and it's out of the way, and it's great. And I can actually take this off and get to it and access all the equipment inside, separate from, I didn't have this set up right, separate from my pistol belt and separate from my plate carrier. So then I have all the things inside, which is super convenient. And typically, if you set this up right, this is a single motion pull down to open the things, and it is very convenient. And it carries more medical equipment than your standard IFAK. It gives you a little bit more. So ran that. Pistol belt setup is very straightforward, but it's also as slick as possible. So this is a speed belt with a Ragnarok holster. In this case, I'm playing with just running a shock cord for my leg strap, kind of like a cowboy style, super slim, super slick, you know, not a full leg strap. It actually worked really well, so that was kind of fun. But in this case, I'm trying to keep the belt completely slick in the rear so that my Med H can actually fit there, right here. And that's exactly what happened. It just kind of hung out there, completely separate from the belt. And if I were to throw on a larger pack, it's also slick. I don't have a bunch of pouches back there. But I have a singular pouch here for a flashlight, multi-tool, or spare pistol magazine. Rifle pouch, I like to run a 20, so it doesn't stick up into my plate carrier. Just a little bit more comfortable. I can still get to the mag really fast. It's not a problem. I can also run a 30 if I want, but 20, and then 2 pistol mags. 2 pistol mags is typically all I do, but I can run a 3rd here if I want. I can even run a 4th here in the rifle mag carrier, and it actually holds pretty well. So if I really just want to run pistol mags, I can do that with this setup, but typically I don't have to do that. Electrical tape for my fingers because they get busted and other things, and it makes people upset online, so why not? Because it's fun. So that's the belt. Night vision. So I have a OpsCore SF. I've been using these helmets for a long time. They're super comfortable, lightweight. They do have ballistic properties. Not as much as some helmets, but they still have good ballistic capability. They are expensive. You definitely are paying for quality, and you're paying for good fit and function. But yes, it is an expensive helmet. You can go out there and buy like surplus helmets, but it's not going to be the same or as light as one of these. You're just paying for something very different. Contact Ear Pro, kind of the standard. A lot of guys still use them. I prefer Sword-ins for the sound quality, but these work fine. They're good. You can run comms. You can talk to people. If you have friends, which most of you probably don't. I don't have a lot of friends either, so I just kind of put that away because no friends. So just kind of, yeah. So that's how I run it. On the rear, so these are RNVG. We'll talk about these first. These are RNVG VGs. So these are a cost-effective bino unit with, these have white phos tubes in them, which are built to our spec. So we offer night vision here at TREX Arms, but we offer night vision in a different way than a lot of companies. We're not like a specialized shop that provides like all this customization and like crazy stuff. We're trying to provide the most simplified purchasing solution possible with a high standard of what devices we get to begin with. So Scott from Nocturnality, we give him a tolerance of how to assemble our units, you know, in accordance to that tolerance, and then he sends us, you know, hundreds of night vision units, and then we sell those to people. And that has been wildly successful. A lot of people don't actually want to go, you know, down into the deep rabbit hole of specs of night vision and FOM and SNR, like all this crazy stuff. They just want to go to a trusted source, get a good set of night vision, and start training. And that's primarily who our customers are. I think we've only had 5 people request a different spec of night vision after they've ordered, and we've had hundreds of people buy and say, no, just send me night vision, I want to start training. That's exactly the kind of people we want to sell to and support. So this set of night vision is the variable gain version of the RNVGs. I've been using these for a while now. They're super nice. And what I like about them is you can start training earlier in the evening with the variable gain. So you can dim it down a couple stops. The last dimness, I don't know when you could use that, maybe driving in the city, but the setting right above that, I was shooting at 6:30 p.m. The other night, where the sun's going down, it's starting to get dark, but it's not like fully dark yet, and I could see enough that I could shoot, train, see my laser, see my dot on my handgun, and then as it gets darker, then I click the variableness of the gain, and now it's a little bit brighter and I can see everything just fine. So I like that. I like having variable gain on night vision just because I can get an extra hour of training in as it's getting darker. I don't have to wait for full dark because that's kind of annoying sometimes, especially if you're trying to get as many reps in as possible in the least amount of time. So great device, definitely does the things and allows me to do stuff. Wilcox G24 mount, really the gold standard, best mount that you can get. Good to go. I've got that. But you'll see I don't have a battery pack for these, and this is both a pro and a con. The pro is I save a bunch of money. The con is I don't have a nice counterweight in the back that is useful. In this case, I actually have 2 lead weights from a different counterweight pouch that I put Velcro on, and I guessed, hey, I think these 2 weights and a strobe will be enough to counteract this, and it was. It was good. It was comfortable. The only reason to have a strobe is if you want to look really cool. We all know that. It's actually more for if you're on a range, and we don't do this, but other people's ranges, if they have a requirement for, hey, everyone needs accountability for being on the range at night because it's really unsafe, I guess, to some people, which it is around some folks. But you can turn this on. These are often too bright for other people with night vision, so you tape over these a little bit, but now I have a flashing light and I don't have to put a chem light on or something. The other reason is it just looks really cool, but the main reason I have it on here is just for weight. I just need to add a little bit of weight here and have a little bit of functionality if I need it. I don't have an AC130 yet, so I don't need to, wear that for that. So pretty basic helmet setup. I will say, though, you'll see I don't have a lot of crap on here because I don't like putting a lot of crap on my helmets. The OpsCore SF and the RF1 have this thing. Most people don't know about this, called the, I can't remember what it's called. I've heard it called the whale tail. It is a piece that comes with your helmet separate, so you have to find it and then think about how it works. But basically, this is an extension for the padding that goes down the nape of your neck. And what this does is this helps manage the weight of the night vision in the helmet in a standing position for a prolonged period of time, and it does work really well. The downside to this is as soon as you start shooting prone or with a pack or with kit, you run into problems. So early on in the evening, I had this set to the middle and drop prone. It was actually, no, I had already changed this from the night before. I tried to shoot prone with this really low. It was difficult, although you can do it, especially if you're shooting with a laser because you're kind of sitting up to shoot with the laser anyway. So I actually decided to move this further down just because I knew, hey, we're doing some prone shooting, we're doing some other stuff. I don't need maximum support for my head. So I moved it down and it was super comfortable and I had, a little bit more clearance for shooting in the prone. So if you get an OpsCore helmet, I do suggest using this. Just, set it accordingly, play around with it. But if you are wearing a helmet with night vision for a long time, running it further down, it does help a lot. And to some extent, you don't even need a counterweight at that point. So really cool thing that OpsCore includes. Definitely don't throw it away when you buy a helmet and open the box and don't know what it does. For weapons, so we wanted to be as clone correct as possible. So for me, I'm shooting a stock Glock, and I do consider this stock, which I know some people aren't going to agree with. But this is an MOS Glock 19 Gen 5. They've been using MOSs in special operations now for a while so that guys can run dots. I have an RMR on here, so pretty standard, nothing fancy, crazy, or Chinese or weird. Surefire X300, which I believe guys are now being issued, at least within most of SOCOM. I remember years ago, guys wouldn't get issued lights. They were still shooting like Glocks and didn't have lights, but I think everyone's got lights now. The X300 is a very popular one. And then the main change to this handgun that I did was skate tape. I put skate tape on basically every Glock that I shoot now. It just gives me a little bit more to hang on to for better recoil management, and it's something that I highly recommend people play with and use. It's also good in the rain. It's not too bad, and with time it will wear away, and then you might want to refresh it, take it off, put on new stuff. So I threw that on there, and the gun ran super well, and it shot, and it was fine. It's a stock Glock, like it worked. No stoppages for the last 2 days. The rifle, this is a Geissele URGI upper, 11.5-inch barrel. Pretty common. This is actually the first time I've shot one though, the last couple days. Shoots really good. I shot it unsuppressed. It shot amazing. I threw the NT4 on, which is a issued, this is what they're running. And I didn't change the buffer or the spring or anything. My rounds are ejecting forward, but the gun was shooting in such a way that I can predict it. I'm happy with how it's shooting. I'm not getting too much gas to the face, that I just left it alone. The nice thing is when I take this can off, I'll still be good to go. The ejection's like perfect. Like it shoots really smooth without a can on it. I throw the can on. It's a little harsher, but it's not too bad. And I like that. I don't like having to change spring every time I'm going from suppressed and unsuppressed. So NT4 ran great, minimal flash. It is a rattly can, which is kind of annoying, but you get used to it pretty fast. But Brandon was saying like there's no flash coming out of it as he's standing there watching, timing me. So flash suppression on the NT4 is incredible, and the shot timer won't pick it up. In order to actually get time, you've got to bring the timer over to the breech. And so that is how I judge suppressors, is often like if I have it on my belt and I'm shooting with it, if it can't pick up, if the shot timer can't pick it up, then it's a pretty quiet rifle. And then I have to get clever with like part times and stuff like that. Surefire Scout Light, I've been told that guys still have WMXs. When they break, guys get Surefires or guys buy their own lights. So yeah, dudes are running Surefires. In this case, I'm not running a pressure switch. I'm not moving away from them, but I like having a little bit more control over the gun, especially if I'm doing night vision stuff. So this light never turns on unless I really want it to. Pressure switches, you could start getting into issues like slinging it, putting it on your kit, maybe grabbing in the wrong place. So in order to turn this light on, this is an Arasaka momentary only, I have to push forward. So this light is not coming on unless I really want it to come on, and that's what I want in this case. Part of this Qual is if you inadvertently activate your white light, you get penalties. So they definitely are stressing that guys are only activating white light when they want to, and they're activating IR when they need to or want to. So no accidents are allowed. I was running an NGOL, so guys are getting those now. They actually have access to PEC 16s, PEC 15s, and NGOLs. So they kind of have a wide gambit of laser devices, but it ran great, it worked, and it did the things that it needed to do. EOTech runs great, best optic under night vision. Throughout the Qual, you are shooting white light and night vision with laser and night vision passive. So I was just hitting my night vision button right here to dim the optic immediately for that specific string of fire. And then I would hit that again as we would get closer to shoot white light. And I didn't have to change like my brightness a whole lot, which was nice. And I was good to go. Geissele trigger, SSAE, which I believe the guys have, and SSAs. And then our sling, works out. It's adjustable, does stuff. And I did put an HK grip on here because I just really like them. It's probably my favorite. And I've been told guys can change their furniture on rifles, at least stock and grip, to kind of whatever they want, or if they want to run a vert grip of some kind. And so you'll see a plethora of options out there by guys as they're doing training and photos, press photos are getting taken. The most important thing though, the most important upgrade to this rifle, I'm going to say, maybe not the most important, the thing that will make the biggest difference besides your optic is what you choose to assist in getting more friction on the rifle itself. So to have good recoil management, high-speed marksmanship, you don't want slop in the rifle as you're shooting. You want the gun to be stuck to your body and you fire and, there's as little as recoil as possible. The problem with this Geissele rail and a lot of this slick M-LOK rails, but I'm actually going to say this rail might be the worst just due to the finish, I guess, of the rail itself, is it's a slippery rail. Like, you go to grab it and you pull rearward with it to keep the stock tight to your shoulder, and your hand wants to glide backwards. Like, it's a really slick rail. Like, I would put grip tape on it, or you could even put like a hockey tape on there. But instead, what I did is I just went and found a couple little mag pull sections, and I placed them exactly where the meat of my hand would be. So meat of my thumb, where I'm activating laser or light, and then these two right here where my fingers are going to grab. So this just gives me friction to be able to keep the gun pressed positively into my body without my hand slipping. I don't need a vert grip. I don't need a BCM grip or anything, although it would help. In this case, it would do what this is doing in this case. But definitely think about putting something with friction on your Geisley rail, because this thing is insanely slick, and that does not help with recoil management, like, whatsoever. Can you shoot the rifle fine without, can you hold it, death grip it, shoot? Yes, you can. But again, we're looking for upgrades that bring out the optimal performance of a weapon like this, and I'm going to argue something with friction somewhere is going to, it's gonna pay in spades if you are good at shooting, and if you have something like that. So my kit is fairly simple. It's pretty consistent with what I normally run, but let's look at what Brandon's been using, because he set up his kit like very specifically to what he was issued in MARSOC. It's gonna look fairly different to mine. This is gonna look pretty different, and that's because his kit is built around what he was using for very specific things, and my kit was built out for range optimization while also trying to be realistic to what guys are running. There are some things that I could have done, again, to like make it even more realistic, which would have been like run larger, heavier radios, and maybe not run a belt, only run a plate carrier, and run a larger pack. Like, there's some things that I could do to make it more similar to what some of those guys are using, but I'm gonna leave that to Brandon and his loadout to show you guys, and I basically just ran a more optimized shooter loadout.
So like Lucas said, my kit is going to be set up differently compared to his. So his kit is set up to clone what guys are using right now, but more optimized for that flat range use for the mod qual that we did. What I'm doing is my kit is trying to replicate exactly what I used on my deployments. So even during training, during my pipeline and workups for pre-deployment type stuff, I didn't use this type of kit loadout. I used stuff more like what Lucas used, that's to be optimized for training and for flat range type stuff to make the mod qual, easier actually, because this kit is definitely not optimized for that. I mentioned that because it is important to understand the role that I served on the teams, because obviously my kit is set up to better support those roles. So I was a communicator, I flew drones, I was assistant mortarman, and we did a lot of operations out of vehicles. So my kit, again, is set up for that, not so much for being a fast shooter on the range and trying to perform highly on the mod qual. Again, my kit is set up to support the role I served on the teams. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through the most interesting things first, starting with the guns, and then finishing off with some of the more boring stuff on the table. Now, it is important to note that the guns that I was issued were a little bit different than what guys are getting issued now. I did not get URGIs. I did not get Knife Force ATACers, VCOGs, or anything like that. We got EOTechs and magnifiers and LCANs. That's basically it. And in fact, the gun that I used most often than not was a Mark 18, and we actually did an Armor YouTube channel video on my Mark 18 setup already. This guy right here. The reason why I have this gun here is one to tell you that I use Mark 18s more than I use 14.5s, but also the lower that I used on this gun is actually the same lower that's on that 14.5, and that is because we got issued one lower and two uppers, and that's just the kind of way things get issued in the military. You get one firearm, the lower receiver, and then you get uppers to different uppers to support that lower. So the gun that I have here for the clone, we have a 14.5 BCM upper actually, with just a URGI rail on it. This gun looks very, very cool. I don't know why, I just love every gun that I build in here. I just have this weird thing about building ARs. I just think they're all super cool. But if I wasn't carrying a Mark 18, which actually for majority of my second deployment, I started carrying my 14.5. It was a RIS2 rail. I had a PEC 16 on there, and I had a Leupold Mark 8 1:8 LPVO on there. And that was just because our engagements were very, very long on actually both my deployments. So majority of the work that we did was not with small arms, it was with heavy weapons, with mortars and stuff like that. So I just wanted something that could observe a little bit better comparatively to the LCANs and EOTechs magnifiers that we got issued. So going over this gun, I already talked about the upper. We have a PEC 15 on here. Guys are getting issued PEC 16s, 15s. JTACs are getting issued LA5s, and guys are also getting issued Ingalls. I don't know which of those lasers are getting left behind for the new Ingalls, but all I have to say is they get issued all kinds of things, but all of those lasers work very, very well. PEC 15, definitely one of the lighter ones that would go on the longer upper just to try and mitigate some of the weight of the gun. I did not use a suppressor. Majority of the guys on deployments don't, unless we know we're going into houses and shooting quite a bit. It's just extra weight, another piece of equipment that could get lost. And it's just not necessarily all that needed, especially like I said, because majority of the work we're doing was with heavy weapons like mortars and machine guns. Going back from the light, I do still have iron sights on the gun. I think there's no reason not to have them. I get that I have 3 aiming solutions already without them, so it is extremely redundant, but they take up no space, they're no weight, and I think they look kind of cool. So left them on there. However, if this primary aiming system went down for some reason, it is most likely going to be the mount. That's not saying anything negative on Knife Force mounts. I think these are probably the most durable mounts out there. It's just, if something were to happen, this optic went down, I would probably eliminate both this LPVO and the red dot, because if something did break this, it would be something pretty catastrophic. So iron sights could still have a place. And these lasers, unless it's an Ingall, the vis laser is not that visible during the day. Ingalls are like visible in max daylight. So that's why iron sights are on there. I have a Surefire Mini Turbo. If I was in now, I would probably buy my own flashlight, buy my own pressure pad, like I have here, the dual pressure pad, and that's what I would use. So the sling, TREX arm sling. TREX arm slings did not exist when I was in, but it would definitely be the sling that I use. It's just it's a really good blend of lightweight, thin, and comfortable. And you can obviously stow this sling very easily. You guys are all well aware of TREX slings. Now, the lowers that we got issued had these, they're not QD points, but they're just hooks for clash hooks. So what I have going on here on this side here is I have a clash hook, like QD attachment point. So I just have my sling attached to the end plate that's hooks, and then I have it attached to the clash hook point that goes into the QD on the gun. And then what I do is I attach 550 cord to the ends of the guns on the stock and on the rail for if I wanted to run the sling that way. Now, majority of the time, that is how I would use my sling, is attached to the end of the gun, because I'm doing other things with my hands other than shooting vast majority of the times. So I really only have my sling attached to the gun if I'm like on the flat range or something like that. So sling attached to the end of the gun just to keep it better secured to my body. So going back from the sling, we have the optic. So we have a Night Force A-Tagger. Like I said, didn't get issued these, but if I did, I'd be very, very happy to use these in place of the Leupold Mark 8 or the L-Can on this setup. These LPVOs are great. Daylight brightness on 1x is literally red dot bright. And I actually shot the mod Qual with this and not the top mounted red dot. So the top mounted red dot, I have an RMR. I see guys using all sorts of things. My buddy currently is using an offset delta point on a 35-degree mount, and he's able to passively aim with that. I haven't gotten too much time with trying that out. So what I have here is a RMR mount from a company. I'm probably gonna say the name of this wrong, and it's probably gonna sound really funny, but this is just what it is. It's called the Bald Knobber RMR mount for Night Force mounts. There's a couple other companies that make these. I think this mount is great. It's in my limited use with it, it has worked very well. But top mounted dot mainly for passive shooting. So I'm using this optic for all of my shooting. I'm just using this RMR for passive shooting because the mod Qual requires passive shooting. So you need a means of shooting passively with your night vision. Other than that, on the gun, it's pretty basic. Just have a PRI gas busting charging handle. The furniture on the lower, I have a Magpul Miod grip. This is basically an A2 angled grip, just a little bit fatter. This is the exact grip that I used when I was in, came off of my gun. I have a Geisley 2-stage trigger in there. That's what we got issued. Magpul bad lever, use those. I think they are very good. They do nothing but enhance the performance of the gun, in my opinion, and the shooter's ability to input the gun. We have a full ambi safety. I would obviously rather have a short throw safety like we get or like we sell on our website, but this safety works just fine. And then we have the B5 stock with the flat butt pad, which I do not prefer. I would prefer the angled butt pad. I give my full opinions on that in the Mark 18 MARSOC Armor YouTube video. If you guys want a good laugh, I give my opinions on the stock. So that is the 14.5 gun. This gun shot very, very well with this muzzle device. So this is just an extended A2 flash hider. I do have an A5 buffer in there. Neither one of those are issued. We had Knights Armament muzzle devices and then just standard carbine buffers. But the combination of a mid-length gas system, an A5 buffer, and an extended A2 flash hider, this gun shoots extremely flat. In fact, it actually drove the gun down quite a bit. So let's move on to the plate carrier. So the plate carrier that I used is our new AC0. So like Lucas said, we split the AC1 into two different plate carriers, AC15 and the AC0. The difference between the AC0 and the AC15 is basically this is just slimmed down, this is slicker, and there's some features removed to bring some of the costs down. And I'll go through those as we break down the kit. So the reason why I'm using this plate carrier is not only do I work at TREX and we are excited about our new plate carriers, but this is very similar to the Cry MBAV, and that's what I was issued and what I wore majority of the time. In fact, I'm using Cry MBAV cummerbunds, and I'll talk about those as we get to them. So what I have on the front is the Cry AVS placard. So this takes a single GI magazine. This does not take PMags all that well. You can shove them in there, but they're very difficult to get out. And the way this attaches is via the Cry Precision method that we kind of use on our plate carriers. Ours is sized differently to accommodate other placards, including some of the ones that we're coming out with. But it is similar to Cry's, and a Cry placard will attach to ours, just not all that well. It's kind of bunched up. But as you can see, this works as a really nice flap, and I have no hardware on the front of the plate carrier, so it's still completely slick, and I still have this nice flap. Now, I like this one for this plate carrier setup over our triple placard because the Velcro on the front of these magazine pouches is a little bit more surface area. So when I strap my cummerbund to the front of this, again, there's just more Velcro for the cummerbund to attach to. And this is exactly how I used my plate carrier on deployments, was literally just like this. So off the side of the placard, I have my chem light bundles. So if we're going into a house, generally our chem light bundles are much bigger than this, but given my role on the team, I don't generally use any of my chem lights because I'm in generally the headquarters element, so I'm working with the team commander, sometimes the team chief and some other people on the team doing a lot of supporting type roles. So these are just kind of an emergency thing, but they are required. We do require everyone to have these, so I just have a couple. So generally speaking, full chem light bundles could be upwards of 32 chem lights, 16 per chem light bundle, depending on team SOPs and whatnot. But I like attaching to my plate carrier because I don't like having anything on my waist. These are out of the way when I crouch down, go prone, and all of that. They're just the way these are set up right now is just the placement of these and the height they ride. It's just out of the way of everything, and I found this to work really, really well. So as a communicator, I generally carry 3 radios on me, especially during the workup and training, during deployment, depending on the type of operation we went on. They may have gone down to 2 radios, but I have a 148 and a 152. These are fake, they are not real. In fact, the antenna broke during the mod qual on this fake radio, so I don't have an antenna on here, but they actually weigh about the same, so they're heavy. All that to say. So I just have standard U94 push-to-talks on these radios. And the reason why we have so many radios as a communicator is I would have the 148s generally set up for team internal communications. The 152s would be set up for external team communication. So if we had a sister team working with us, or this would be set up to monitor air nets. So basically UHF and VHF is the way these would be set up. And then the third radio would be in the bag. And I'll talk about that one when we get to the bag. So that's basically the front of the plate carrier. I never wore a tourniquet on my gear except for my med kit, which we'll get to. But given what I know now, I probably would have an additional tourniquet here because it's literally nothing, doesn't get in the way of anything. But generally tourniquets actually stay on our body, so in pockets on our kit or on our clothing. So if we didn't have our plate carrier, we weren't down a tourniquet. The shoulder straps on here, I actually have Cry AVS shoulder straps, and the reason why I use these is because if I feed my down lead from my headphones to the push-to-talks, I just have some loop that they can run through, so it's just a little bit of cable management going on there. The back of the plate carrier is completely slick, so this is one of the differences between AC0 and AC15. We have nothing going on the back here, so you notice there's no hardware attachments or Velcro on the front of the plate bag, and on the back we have nothing as well, so completely slick. And the only other difference between the plate bags from AC0, AC15, besides what I just mentioned, is that we don't have a wing pass-through on this plate carrier. So that is also why I need that Velcro on top, because I don't want to constantly be ripping up my placard to attach cummerbunds. That's just a pet peeve of mine. So with this plate carrier setup, I want to be able to just wrap all the way around with the cummerbund. So that means I'm going to need an elastic cummerbund of some kind. I really like the Cry MBAV cummerbunds. This is the JTAC one. This one has inserts for side armor. For soft side armor, you can shove hard plates in there. It's not that comfortable. And then there's a radio pouch on the outside of these. I generally never use these radio pouches. The only things I would put in them is a water bottle And what I have in this one is just something to write on. So I have just my note-taking gear. I use this all the time when I'm monitoring nets and helping pass information to the ground force commander. So I needed this in a place that I can get to easily and stow easily, even under nods, and that sort of thing. So that's the plate carrier. It's pretty simple. Again, just kind of trying to replicate the Cry MBEV that I was issued. And as you can see, this is not set up optimally for flat range use at all. The next most exciting thing is going to be the helmet, probably. So what we have going on here is this is the OpsCore SF helmet. It's the same one that Lucas uses. This is pretty close to what I was issued. I don't actually remember the exact nomenclature of the helmet I was issued, but it was an OpsCore. I don't think it was a super high cut. It may have been, I don't know. But the only difference is with this helmet comparatively to the one I was issued is I just have different brands of equipment basically. Other than that, the setup is basically the same. So I have a battery pack for my RNVG Alphas. So these are my personal Alphas. I have ultra lightweight lenses on them. And these actually weigh 17 ounces. So these are the same weight as PVS 31s in their aluminum housing because of the ultra lightweight lenses. And I have filmed L3 green phosphor tubes in there that were made back in 2008, but they are extremely crispy. They have no blims. They are perfect. And I actually prefer green phos over white phos because contrast in green phos is a little bit better than white phos, in my opinion. So the blacks are blacker with green. So that just means that you're able to see targets a little bit farther. Now green does strain the eyes a little bit more compared to the white, but that's just a trade-off. I like the contrast difference with green. And yeah, that's just, I'm definitely in the minority there. Moving on from there, we have a strobe for the same things Lucas already talked about. I use this battery pack for these nods because I don't need to have a battery in these nods if this is plugged in. So all I gotta do is turn it on on either side. So I have 1, 2, 3s on one side, and I think it's double A's on the other side, I don't remember. I basically have 2 battery silos. If one dies, I just turn the switch to the other side and the nods will stay powered on. So I really, really like that because again, I don't need a battery in here. It's just a little bit less weight on the front of the helmet. I have auto dual comms. These are fantastic. These are my favorite headphones. You guys have heard me talk about autos already. I do think they are the best for the money out there currently. I think if you have the extra coin to buy better headphones, really the only option is OpsCore amps in my opinion. And that's just statistically speaking of what kind of protection these headphones offer. Amps are really probably the only ones out there that are better, but they are over double the price. The mounting solution from Auto is fantastic. These can slide up to any point that you want, so you can have them mounted in like a traditional OpsCore amp style, or you can have them up top like Peltors, and these lock into place. So when I clip them in, they lock in and you have to pinch them to release them. So once they clamp in, they're not going anywhere. They are very, very secure. In fact, they are so snug on your head that you don't even need a chin strap. So that's why you don't see me wearing a chin strap that often, because I just don't need it. But other than that, pretty basic helmet setup. Try to keep the helmet nice and slick. Just have a task light on here for doing tasks. And yeah, so let's move on to the more boring stuff. So moving on to my fanny pack, this is probably going to be one of the more interesting things about my kit, and it's going to probably ruffle some feathers, but hey, like I said, context is kind of important to understand why I had my kit set up the way I did. So just please understand that I was using things because we're in vehicles quite often. So that is that is probably the biggest reason why my kit is set up the way it is. I needed it to be slick because I was sitting down in the car a lot, doing all sorts of things. So I was using an Eagles Industries fanny pack, not our Med 2 obviously, because this just came out. But if the Med 2 is out, I would definitely use this in its place because I think this is superior in every way. Lucas kind of already went over what's in this guy. It's the same that he had. Attached to this, I would have my gloves and some tape. Electrical tape as a communicator is pretty vital, needed for a lot of things. Now this is what is going to be interesting about this. So as you guys saw, I didn't wear a belt. I don't like wearing belts normally. I really only wear belts for the range. I think that's really the only place that belts have a place is for flat range training. For a lot of other stuff, when you're doing other things and you have to carry a gun because you have a job, belts are just kind of uncomfortable and they get in the way of a lot of things. So what I have here is an Eagle Industries belt system. So this has some Tigris in it. It has Molly, and I have that slid over the fanny pack, and then I have a dump pouch mollied on to that. So this dump pouch has some various pouches in here. It can be rolled up and stowed. I don't know who makes this. I bought this for $5 out of a spare part, like a spare nylon bin at a local gear store in North Carolina. But this setup was actually fantastic because generally, a lot of the times we weren't wearing plate carriers when we were doing work, but we needed certain equipment on our bodies at all times. So our pistol, medical gear, and I needed some tools to do my job, flying UAVs and doing communication. So all of that stuff would be stored here. So this would basically be my admin pouch, also a dump pouch. And then when I had mollied on here, so I had a Gerber, I had a pistol mag mollied on here. This is our SIP pouch, so small item pouch. This is obviously not the pouch that I had mollied on here. I had another pouch, I don't even remember what it was called. I mentioned that because behind it I had a frag pouch mollied here, and that's where I'd keep my frag grenade. So our SIP pouch just takes up 3 rows of molly, and I can't molly a frag pouch with our pouch on there. And then on the side here, what I had mollied on was a smoke grenade pouch. I would have a smoke grenade, a frag grenade, a pistol mag, a Gerber, and then just some admin stuff in here attached to this. Now you would think that's very heavy, but it's actually not, as long as this is somewhat secure. It didn't droop down all that much. Now, this setup was super nice because I can move it around how I need it to, especially when I'm sitting in a car. This was just very flexible and very comfortable, and it had everything I needed. So this is actually pretty interesting. I actually don't know of anyone else that used a setup like this, but like I said, it worked out really, really well for me. And any of my communicators out there are still in MARSOC, I suggest trying this out if you want to have a slick waist. So moving on from there, we have the pistol setup. Glock 19, we didn't have RMRs on our Glocks. We just had iron sights. I didn't even carry a flashlight with it. So the pistol that I used for the mod Qual is just a Gen 5 19 with a X300 Vampire with an RCR. Obviously they're getting issued RMRs, not RCRs, but we were actually out of RMRs when I built this pistol out. I know, odd, we're out of RMRs in the armory, but they're being used for other things. So the RCR is basically an RMR, just enclosed. The window is exactly the same size. So for cloning reasons, this is pretty good. If I was in today, I would use my personal X300 Vampire. I like this light a lot better than the Ultra, just a little bit tighter of a throw. It's a good mix between high candela and flood, and also that Vampire option would be nice to have. So this would be pretty close to what I would use today. While I was in, I didn't use a UBL. I just used the paddle that attached directly to the hip. That kind of just was a quick on and off. If I had a UBL back then, I probably would use it, but it's a pistol. This is like the backup of the backup for weapon systems. For the way we did things, it wouldn't be all that big a deal. But this is definitely better for shooting, better for your draw, more consistent draw, and all that sort of thing. Speaking to the UBL comparatively to the paddle. So this plus my Fanny Pack setup is basically the belt that I used. The last piece of kit we need to talk about is the yoke bag. So this is the exact yoke bag that I was issued. It is duct taped together. It's pretty beat up. The interesting thing to note about this guy is the straps. I have Alice Pack straps on here. I was issued this thing without straps, and I just bought these from a surplus store, and they work really, really well. I actually like how these get out of the way of the plate carrier a little bit better than the standard straps that come with this. Honestly, if I use the standard straps, I probably wouldn't notice the difference, but just interesting that I use these. Anyways, for what this bag is used for, the primary use of this was to carry a 117 Golf. So a large radio and a SATCOM antenna. So it would have the radio in the main pouch with my Camelback, and then I would have a SATCOM antenna basically in the compartment that you would normally use for a helmet. And that is how I would deploy satellite communications very quickly. Now, as you guys noticed, during direct action stuff, you need flashbangs, you need smokes, you need all of these distractionary devices. These are things that everyone on the team has to carry, and I have nowhere to put those items on my kit. Now, a lot of those things are generally required to be worn on your back per team SOPs, and I had this on my back, so that is where all of that stuff is stored. And if you guys also noticed, I don't have a lot of magazines on this kit, and that's fine. Again, my role on the team is to do other things other than shoot primarily, so additional magazines would be in this guy, and then all my distractionary and smoke and flashbangs would be in here. So in the middle of the pouch would just be my flashbangs and smoke grenade, just how I have it set up here. Everyone on my teams knew that's where I stored stuff, so if they needed to access that stuff, they knew where to get it off of my body, off of my kit. And if they needed extra, they knew they could just go to the radio bag that was being used, and they can get additional equipment there. And then one side would be for smoke grenades, for pistol mags, and one side would be for rifle mags. And other than that, the only stuff that would go in this bag is just various admin items, like I have a litter in here, batteries, and that sort of stuff, nothing crazy. So that is my kit, guys. Like I said, I try to replicate the kit that I actually used on deployment, not so much during my workups and even during some of the flat range training that I did when I was in MARSOC. I wanted to replicate the gear that I actually used and then attempt to pass the mod Qual with the kit I actually use, including wearing this pack. So obviously this pack is not optimal for shouldering a stock, but it is what it is. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you guys learned something from the way Lucas set his kit up, the way, you know, I set my kit up, and kind of the uniqueness behind it, and then even how we set up our helmets and guns. I hope you guys took something away from this. So I appreciate you guys watching. Until next time, this is Brandon from TREX.